is the European Union response to eco-laundering. And the title is, I make a question in this title, a very eclectic question. Is a virtuous or is a flawed circular economy that we're talking about? Well, there's a, hold on a second. I need to open my presentation. Hold on a second. Well, for the achievement of climate objectives and the challenge of sustainability, the involvement of the private sector is considered essential. The provision of resources by the financial sectors towards sustainable business and economic activities will facilitate the transition to a low carbon economy that is more respectful of environmental and social objectives. To this end, the European Commission launched in March 2018 the Action Plan Financing Sustainable Development, which pursues this objective of integrating sustainability into financial analysis and investment decisions. The result of all this was the approval of 3 regulations, among which the taxonomy regulation stands out as the centerpiece. The objective is to determine when an economic activity is sustainable in order to establish the degree of sustainability of an investment. The objective is clear: to provide investors with information on sustainability so that they can make informed decisions on the matter, which will result in transparency and fair play rules for civil society. Well, the background, let me make my presentation. Hold on a second. Here. Un momentito. Oh, I have to make adjustments here. Okay. Un momento. Oh. Yeah. The EU Sustainable Finance and Climate Change Agenda sought to achieve the overall target of 30% of the European budget expenditure to support climate objectives. So here we have a mix of public spending and private spending, because, as I said before, the goal to level climate change can only be obtained with the aid of the private sector. Well, this European Sustainable Finance Plan was another instrument that adds to the European Green Deal, the Paris Agreement commitments, the Sustainable Development Goals, the UN Principles on Responsible Investment, along with the principles and rights set out in the 8 core conventions identified in the International Labour Organization, Declaration of Fundamental Freedoms, Principles and Rights at Work, and the International Bill of Human Rights.
Antonio, I am very sorry.
Yes, I was going to say. I think sorry. I think maybe Juan Ramon was going to say the same than myself, that the slides are not passing. Las transparencias no están pasando.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on a second. Let me. I had too many. Uso compartido de pantalla. Okay. Compartir. Okay. I'm in point number 1 in the forward. So you see the slides?
I'm afraid that we cannot see your slides as they are passing on. Maybe you could stop sharing your screen and sharing it again so that we can attach to the actual slides as you pass them on.
You mean that okay, stop sharing?
Exactly, and do it again.
I do what? I share again?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sharing it.
All right. Can you try to pass it on to the next slide?
Yes, I can.
All right. Now it seems to be working. Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So let me keep going with the Now what are you seeing is my text or
the structure, yeah, the slide expressing the content of the speech, of the presentation.
Okay, so I keep going now?
Yes.
Okay, the search for renewable energies with no impact on the environment is spreading. For example, the capacity to generate electricity through renewable sources has increased strongly in recent years, a dynamic that had its origin in the theory of sustainable development that emerged in the 1960s. I'll go now to the taxonomy regulation, which in my presentation is the scope of application of the regulation. Well, the taxonomy regulation that is going to be analyzed is part of a package of pieces with the Sustainable Financial Disclosure Regulation, the regulation on low carbon indices, green labeling, the European Green Bond Standards, on regulation number 462/2013 of May 2013 on credit rating agencies. The regulation acts as an umbrella for the functioning of the framework as is based on the founding principle of international environmental law of no significant harm, whereby it is imperative to ensure that activities do not cause transboundary damage that is transferred from the state to the business level. Traditionally, environmental protection was sustained on state relationships. Now we downplay this strategy and we go to the business. So business level, private sector cannot cross boundaries and they cannot make environmental damage. And that's a big step. In this sense, it's like in international law in human rights protection is what we call we have vertical protection and we have horizontal protection. Well, in the climate change, in the fight against climate change, we have reached the vertical and the horizontal intersection. Why we need a taxonomy at the European level? Well, because we are role model. We are role model in Europe, so we have to because we're the biggest polluters and we are the biggest investors. So what we do will set the pace in the future. So it's important because it's harmonized all European regulations with concrete and certain definitions. With the harmonization and a taxonomy, we go one step further because we get rid of coexistence of different national definitions. So a single market is open to a one harmonized taxonomy of what is a sustainable environment. And in this sense, we investors, they have fair play. They have rules that they can be certain of its applicability. It's important for consumers because consumers, they can rely on the protection by the state that when they go to the financial market for a project that is eco-sustainable, well, they know for sure that the investment is eco-friendly. And that's very important to avert corruption and to avert problems that misleads the consumers. Another important thing for a taxonomy on environmental issues is that investors they know where they are going to invest, and they have less problems with cross-border investments. That's a very important fact. Another thing is that when we have a taxonomy, there is no frontiers within the European Union because we all abide by the same rules. This is important. It's very important, the taxonomy, because it leads to a big transparency in the policies on risk, adverse impacts, remuneration, promotion, and pre-contractual information of companies on sustainability. And when we refer to companies in the European Union, we have to take account that not all the companies are directed to this by this regulation. Only you have to have a minimum size. But it's a good starting point, because they will set the pace, and then other companies will abide and will comply with these standards on their own will, and this is very important. It's very important. I refer now to the scope of the application of the regulation. The scope of the regulation goes to the European Union and the state members when adopting measures or when imposing measures to operators in the financial markets. Here, the financial market is very wide open. There is very different participants in the financial market that they are seized by this regulation. So in number B, you can see financial market participants offering financial products. Companies subject to legal obligation to publish non-financial statement or consolidated non-financial statement.
Antonio, sorry again for the interruption. Could you please select the specific slide you are referring to?
Oh, yes, sure.
At this moment, I don't think the slides you are passing on are exactly the same that we can see at the
well,
video
this
meeting.
is the scope.
Exactly. All right.
Okay, you see the scope.
All right, thank you.
The Union or the member state, when they adopt measures imposing on players participating in financial markets, any requirement for products to be financial markets, any requirement for products to be offered under environmentally sustainable label or rating offered under the environmental sustainable label qualification. Financial market participants offering financial products, companies subject to the legal obligation to publish non-financial statement or consolidated non-financial statements. Which are the elements of these? Which are these financial products? Well, those products are those mentioned in the directive 2014/65, which are investments in service firms, an alternative investment fund. All this is very well regulated by the directive and regulation that they predates to the early stage of the freedom of movement of free capitals, and that makes, and this is very sustainable because it's under the European Union, the European currency. Number C of this financial instrument, insurance-based investment products, a pension products, a pension plan, and other funds, pan-European pension products. Those are the financial instruments that when they need to open the market to environmental products, products that they are well into the climate change reduction procedure. That to say, if you want to have you have a pension plan, this pension plan is obliged to go to the financial market and to go selecting those projects to invest that they are eco-friendly, and they have to make this information available to the customers. Which are these environmental goals that the taxonomy needs to take into account? Well, first, instruments to mitigate the climate change, adaptation to climate change. Sometimes we have a problem now because nuclear energy and carbon industries, they are in this transition from adaptation to climate change. It's kind of, we are in the middle of a process where you can be allowed to make investments in coal productions keeping in mind that they are adapting to climate change. Another environmental goal is let us see, sustainable use and protection of water and marine resources. Well, this is very, very, very keen to our to the topic that we are working today. The transition to a circular economy, and this is important because we are seeing a lot of progress on the crystal products. We are talking about clothing, equipment. We are talking about the prohibition of this product deterioration. Because the product deterioration cannot be prevented, but what we need to have is a deterioration that goes to a place where you can reintegrate to the economy. Another point of 6 environmental goal, one of this variance all is pollution prevention and control. Letter F, protection and restoration of biodiversity and ecosystems. Conclusions. Well, the taxonomy regulation focuses particularly on the environmental aspects of the environment, social and governance elements, with the possibility to extend it to other ambits. Nuclear energy. Well, what I said before, we are in this transition process where nuclear energy can be perceived as a eco-friendly byproduct, as long as it doesn't incur in, this is an open-ended clause, significant harm. Only down the road we will be able to, with the work of the European Court of Justice and the process to ask for questions to the European Court of Justice, will be able to know what is a significant harm. What is a significant harm today may not be in the future, and vice versa is true as well. Interaction with the regulation, Arhus, on access to information, participation, access to justice. This is very important because we have the tendency that this taxonomy is going to be very complicated. Well, what we need is that this enterprise, this business, they have a liaison, they have like a compliance officer that they can refer to the public when the public, they to layman terms, that the public can and the public can know in terms that they can easily understand. This is very important to make credit to this regulation, Arhus, which is anchored in a convention, previous convention on information, participation, and access to justice, always related to environmental aspects. The taxonomy is a living instrument, inconsistent with commercial policy and educating financial markets. And lastly, I will say that taxonomy should interact with consumer law, specifically eco-labeling and planet obsolescence of products. Thank you very much for your attention, and sorry for the slowness in showing the slides. Thank you very much.
Not at all, not at all. Thank you very much to you, Antonio.